So the other day I was talking with my papa, and he was telling me because I used to work at a hog farm when I was in Kansas. And he was telling me how pigs are about the smartest animals because out of the farm animals. He says because the other ones will go and they'll eat themselves to death if you don't measure out their food. They'll just keep eating until you got to go put them down because they get so swelled up and whatever, and they're about kills them, right? And he says, like, you get a cow and then get into the feed. The cow will sit there and eat itself basically to death. I can't remember what the term he used for it was called, but and he says, yeah, pigs won't do that though. Which is funny because they say eating like a hog, and the hog's the only one. The hog is the only one without any restraint. But and so, thing is yeah, and I mean, we're the same way in many ways, that and like, I heard how out west, I'll probably go away. Well, the thing is we are the same ways in many, many ways, right? Like, I mean, and if you think you're not, again, you may not. You just don't know yourself. I mean, I met people when that were seriously sad human beings. They got everything they could ever want. Like, all right, I used to drink at this bar back when I turned like 21. Of course, before I got with the Lord and whatever, and I get hammered. Like, me and my boss at the time, we'd go to this bar about every night. We'd go get hammered, right? And thing is we closed down the pizza place we worked at, and my boss was an alcoholic, and I loved hanging out with him. I do miss that dude, but I can't hang out with that guy. Like, flat out. He's just one of the worst alcoholics I've seen in my entire life. Like, for real. And we go, and I mean, that dude, I've just never seen somebody drink like that. But he was a really bad influence on me. But the thing is, though, is we go and we drink every single night. And again, this is my boss, right? We'd be at work. He's like, going to Tabby's? I'm like, yeah. And so at night we go and we go up to this bar in Mason, Ohio, called Tabby's, right? It's closed down now. And we'd go there and we would get wasted. We would close the bar down and whatever. Like, we'd help them close. We were regulars. Like, they knew us. And, like, and so, thing is there was this one guy there this one night. I just remember, like, this dude would always get, like, you got money when you're going, and this is a rich town, by the way. Mason, Ohio is a very wealthy town out here, right? And I used to work there. I lived in a couple towns over, and this guy he had money. He had money, okay, and he dressed really nice, dressed in these really nice suits, had a nice haircut, and sit down and get himself some mixed drink. And it was like, bro, you got money if you're over there drinking your fill on mixed drinks, right? Because, like, and it was always like something that you could tell, like, a rich dude would drink. If I ordered a mixed drink, it was a freaking Caribou Lou, like, it was some hood drink, But this dude would order like, I don't know, like a whiskey sour or something like that. Something where you're like, yeah, you're a classy dude, And he would but this dude was just so miserable looking. I mean, he was just, we're sitting there having a great time and whatever. We look over and this dude is just so miserable, and it looks like he's got everything in the world, but it just doesn't matter. You can get everything you think you want in this life. You get money, women, drugs, and, guns, power, whatever. You can get all that and be so miserable. So miserable. I mean, like I could like there are some people that I've seen, and in this world they look like they've got it all, but they don't. And it's really sad when you look at them, because sometimes they get trapped in the life that they're in. They can't get out, without they can't get out any other way than a casket. And the thing is and honestly, in many cases, a casket would be an improvement. And, I came a hair away myself from being in a situation like that. Like, honestly, I think if it wasn't for the Lord, I'd be in a casket right now. Like, flat out. But, well, really, in earn, we ain't got casket money. But, so, thing is, though, is, yeah. But, man, I mean, like, there was this one song, I used to listen to some of that old Chicano rap, and some of that Mexican rap, and, used to listen to this dude named, SPM. And by the way, I don't know what Chicano means. I just heard it, like, back in the day when I was a kid. I really don't know. So if it's something offensive, please forgive me. I am a gringo that doth not speaketh the Spanish. But, so, I don't speak of the Espanol. All I know is cuss words, how to get high and drunk. Like, flat out. And, that's about it. Like, show that's all I ever really learned. And, and I know I don't know what it means, but I know some Cypress Hill lyrics, But I used to listen to this dude named SPM, South Park Mexican. And he had this one song called OG. And it's so sad because he's like, this is what an OG told me, filthy rich and dying lonely. F a Benz and F a Rolly. Life is what you make it, homie. And it was like, and it's so sad because it's like, you hear this song and it is a really sad song, and like, and it's this old dude sitting there in prison and whatever, and yeah, he's like and that's just another thing, like, all this stuff that this world glorifies, when you look at rap listen to these rappers and they're like, yeah, you want to go out and be a rock superstar and live large, a big house, 5 cars, you're in charge. Coming up in the world, don't trust nobody, got to look over your shoulder constantly, right? And so the thing is it's so terrible. I mean, it really is. And, I mean, you could get all that you ever wanted and be so miserable and just ready to die, because it's like, it's gross. Like, so Solomon in Ecclesiastes, I believe it is. I'm pretty sure it's Ecclesiastes and not Song of Solomon. Yeah, because I think Song of Solomon's in the, no, that's not in the, I can't remember if Song of Solomon's in the canonical Old Testament or if that's in the Apocrypha. I think it's in the canonical Old Testament. But in Ecclesiastes, no, it is Song of Solomon. I think that is in the apocryphal text. So, Song of Solomon, though, or I'm sorry, Ecclesiastes talks about how life is just vanity. It's vanity of vanities, and everything you could ever want is just vanity. You know, I mean, because honestly, like, life is super basic. It is get a roof over your head, get some food in your belly, and, you know, get to the doctor if you need a doctor or something, maybe. Um, and, like, wife, kids, stuff like that. And, you know, life's honestly, it's the vanity that makes it complicated. It's all the self, and that's when it starts getting sticky. Um, but like, I mean, and honestly, like, and it's funny because, like, you know, what I've realized is how little I need to live. You know, I mean, like, live comfortably. Yeah, you need a lot to live comfortably. But even then, you're never actually. You could always be like more comfortable, right? And it's just ridiculous because just the amount of crap. Like, you know, I mean, uh, because again, you could like always have more. You could always have something that just is better or whatever for the most part. But that's where like a lot of these rich people start losing their minds at because they get to this point where they could have the best of everything at all times, and that's when it just starts driving them nuts because it's like, you know, it's like they fought so hard to not have anything that's standard, and now like, and that's something that really messed with me because it was like I was fighting my sobriety, you know, and my natural state, and then it's like, you know, all the drugs, it just becomes the new standard. You know, same with all this wealth, all this other stuff. It just becomes the new standard. All right, you're not gonna fight. You're not gonna win the fight against, you know, normal, right? You are just a human being. From dust we come, to dust will return, right? And this is something we don't like. We really don't like, but it's what it is. And you know, and some of us are going on to eternal glory. We leave this earthly tabernacle and we lay on our, you know, our eternal house, our glorified body with the Lord. But the thing is, and some of us are going to damnation. Well, some of them are going to damnation. I'm not. Thank God. By the grace of God, I'm not. But the thing is, you know, but other than that, it's incredibly, you know, simple. And that's why, like, you know, you really don't need much to live. And honestly, like, you know, self denial is the ultimate way to live because when you can do things to show the love of Christ to other people, which involves self denial, you know, maybe that's going up and praying with somebody, maybe that's, you know, giving them alms, or, you know, maybe that's, you know, taking them somewhere they need a ride, maybe they just need a friend, you know, maybe they just need somebody to talk to, you know, something like that. You know, that's where it's at. Like, you know, that is ultimately, like, that's when you that's when you're really living life how it's meant to be lived. We're not meant to live to ourselves, you know. And like, and there's so many people going around calling themselves Christians, and that's all they do, you know. And I mean, we got to be really careful about stuff like that because that's not, we're not called, like, we weren't brought into this world and chose by God to do what we want to do all the time. We just weren't. I mean, like, we weren't brought here for fun. And, like, you know, here in America, we're like so obsessed with the idea of fun. And, like, you can have fun along the way, don't get me wrong, but that isn't the main thing. That's a side dish, not the main course. But, like, you go over to a lot of these other countries. I mean, you go over to little villages in Africa, and they got an old dirty soccer ball that they got patched up and whatever that they get together and go kick around for fun, and to them to be the richest guy in the neighborhood is to have more than one goat to milk, or something like that. And like there's a lot of countries all over the world where if you're fat, they look at you like you've got serious status because they're like, he can afford to get fat, right? And so thing is like, but here in America, because we've had so much financial success for so long. We're just obsessed with the idea of fun. We're obsessed with the idea of self and whatever. Like there's this old Native American quote I seen where this guy was talking about, before the white man came, we were savages. If somebody didn't have a horse, we gave them a horse. If they didn't have a blanket, we gave them a blanket. They needed a teepee, we gave them one. And we had no criminals because nobody had anything that they wanted. We had no jails, and if people had didn't have, we made sure they had. Because we were such savages before the white man came and civilized us. And, it's true, because it's like, I mean, like, we often look at the people going out and, like, robbing people and whatever to try to make ends meet. But it's like, like, when when we're so heartless that, nobody helps each other out, there's loads of people that go to church every Sunday, but if you came up to him and said, "Look, man, I'm in a bad way right now," and like say a homeless dude came up to him and was like, "I just need some money to go eat on." A lot of these people tell him, "Go get a job. The Lord helps those who help themselves," which is the exact opposite of what the gospel says. The Lord helps those who can't help themselves. But the thing is there's so many of these people that do that. And then like you look at a lot of these little, third world nations, and man, like Sharon's how they get by, and they just couldn't imagine the way that we live and whatever. So selfishly, I had a point that I was going to get on. What was it? But like, oh crap, what was it? But, and it's not just like, again, it's not just even like financially helping somebody out. Sometimes it's just being nice to somebody. Which, I mean, I'm guilty of. Sometimes I have a hard time being nice to people because I've just had so many people my entire life be freaking cruel to me. And now it's like, I've gotten stuck in that. And I have a hard time, because it's like when that's so much of your experience with humanity, you get stuck in that. And, no excuses or any, it's not an excuse necessarily, but it's like, that's what it is, and so, I mean, it messes you up, man. But thing is, but like I was saying, it's not even just necessarily something financial. Like, just denying yourself in general, because again, like, maybe somebody just needs somebody to freaking talk to. Maybe they're so lonely, and they can't and they're just tired of being in their own dang head, and they would just love to have somebody to just sit and shoot the breeze with about the weather. And maybe you had to deny yourself and just hear them talk for a while. In some cases, that's just all somebody needs is just for another human being to hear them speak. And that's, I mean, I like, and there's a lot of this stuff that, like, again, like, I'm still growing with. I mean, I'm not perfect by any means. But this is why I can give these lessons on this stuff, because I learned by seeing my own horrible nature. I learned by looking at myself and going, geez, man, like, how messed up are you? And then looking at everybody else, too, and seeing all their stuff they got going on, and it's like, wow. This is so messed up. And then you look at what the Bible says, and using the Bible as the standard, and you see very quickly how far off we all are. You see really quickly how we are our own enemy. I mean, like, you always hear these stories about, like, oh, but that's what I was going to say earlier. Here in America, we have this huge rate of financial success, but this super low rate of happiness and satisfaction compared to these third world countries where they're just fighting to get a drink of water, and they're like ridiculously happy. You see footage and they're like smiling, like smiles are common, and like, out here, no. No. Like, you look at somebody and smile at them, they think you're up to something. And rightfully so. Because that's usually the only kind that somebody is. Like, I mean, and it's really sad. Because, I mean, we're so far off, man. Like, it's just wild. And, I mean, the self is the biggest enemy. Oh, and that's the other thing is, like, because, like, over here, we have such high standards for what success is, right? For what normal is. Like, out here, if you don't got $1 million in the bank account, you're not super rich, and you ain't super ripped with muscle with a supermodel wife, driving a Mercedes Benz and at least a $500,000 property, which actually that's actually like middle class property now. That's what's really crazy. It's like $500,000, dude. That used to get you like a farm, man. Like, now, $500,000, you're looking at a freaking ranch house and a couple acres of land. That's stupid. Depending on what state you're in, of course. If you're in New York, you're going to get an apartment, bro. But, it's ridiculous. Or California. But, I could not imagine living in either one of those states just because of how high the cost of living is. But especially California, though. California is real bad. But thing is, though, is like, I mean, it's just wild. When you look at, like, and then you look at, like, how all these celebrities are losing their mind. When you look at, like, a Caitlyn Jenner, right? And all this other stuff. It is the ego going nuts. I think sometimes, like, in the case of, like, Bruce Jenner, Bruce, your name's Bruce. But, like, I think in a lot of cases they just get freaking bored because it's like, they've got everything going on and, yeah. I used to watch, there's this one movie I used to watch called American Psycho, which I do not advocate. Like, we shouldn't be watching stuff like this as Christians, but it's a story, because it's a really horrible movie. But it's a story about this dude, really wealthy, really well-to-do, and he's absolutely nuts, dude just goes and, he's like going and picking up hookers and, prostitutes. I probably shouldn't say hookers, but he's going and getting prostitutes, and he's going and like murdering them, right? Like all the time. He's all super, and he's doing a bunch of coke and all this other stuff, and he just goes around brutally murdering prostitutes, and some other dude that is a colleague at his job, and then like at the end it shows that like so much of it is him just hallucinating a lot of it, and it's a really messed up movie, but it shows the type of stuff that goes on. That's why like a lot of these dudes, like you got all these big famous people that were all, they're all on Jeffrey Epstein's flight list, and it's the more you go into pampering yourself, the deeper levels of depravity you go to, because your brain can't produce those happy chemicals the same way. It gets harder. Your resistance goes up, and that's meant to keep you going. That's meant to keep you alive, because like it's, like all, them chemicals are supposed to be a rarely released thing when you do something, in certain terms of survival, right? Keeps people reproducing, it keeps all of creation going, right? But we use these chemicals in a wrong way. And so, and honestly, you can, these reward chemicals in your brain get produced in self-denial a lot. Now, and here's the wisdom of suffering, all right? The more you suffer, the easier it is, the more sensitive you get to those neural soup kicks, right? But the more you pamper yourself, the higher your tolerance is. So the more you suffer, the higher your tolerance gets to suffering. So you get sensitive to pleasure and resistant to pain. Whereas the other way around, you get resistant to pleasure and sensitive to pain. You see how one's wiser than the other? And that's just at a scientific level. That ain't even at just in the spiritual, all that you get from that. But anyhow, yeah, I think you get my point though. There is so much wisdom in self-denial. And I mean, even like Dr. Jordan Peterson says, the most profound wisdom out there is in the Bible. And it really is. Like we are our own worst enemies, and we need to deny ourselves, not just for ourselves, but for everybody else too. So, yeah. So maybe this is some stuff you should be thinking about. All right. Well, I think that'll be it. Pray for me. Peace out.